Ole mole. Ole mole.
Hello, I am Dan,
And I'm Can.
and this is a Pebble,
Ole mole.
a weekly podcast brought to you by Misinformation. Misinformation, the new show on YouTube? No,
I was gonna say
Apple
Netflix.
TV. Apple TV. Misinformation is a influencer that goes around telling all sorts of stories and ditties, expressing the views of the world and what's going on. But is there any reality behind it, or is it just the plight,
Misinformation's information.
the plight of a one woman's message to the world to cause chaos and confusion? Misinformation. Weekly releases on Monday on Apple TV.
She's the news. It's her news channel.
Yes.
So today we do want to talk a little bit about misinformation and whether or not,
The TV show?
We're
We haven't
spreading
even
it.
seen it yet.
well, it's new. And we're going to share about it now. So I saw a TikTok today posted by not somebody I know. It came up on my For You page. But it had a well-known Democratic congressman. I don't know what you call him. I think he's a senator or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking on there about some judges, somebody saying, I can't really see who they says this, that judges can't be objective and they might need to be removed, right?
Yeah.
But at the top, the caption that this poster put, but it is Trump screams inside the courtroom today, I am your king. Okay. So immediately your imagination has this image of Trump, I am your king, right? That's, first of all, now your subconscious doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So it's got a picture of it, right? It's an imprint. So I looked at it, and first of all, you have to understand that that's a caption that the poster put on the top, right? This guy is not saying that, because if you listen to what this senator is saying, he's not saying this quote that Trump supposedly said. And I went and I was like, did Trump say that? Because that's getting a little ridiculous. If you're in court and you're shouting that I am your king, what the hell is going on?
What in the HL hot
And
sticks?
in your impulsivity, your anger, your frustration, you could share it, right?
Mhm.
And then you're spreading this misinformation, because I stopped and researched it.
What are you
And
doing that for?
because I wanted to know if it was true. I don't want to spread things that aren't true.
Nerd. You're such a beta cuck.
I'm sorry
Trying to
that I care about the minds, and I know how impressionable and suggestible people are. I mean, people are suggestible. That's all I got to say. I'm suggestible sometimes. There's always times where I'm more suggestible.
I'm going to go look into that and see if there's any truth behind it. I'm going to research it. I'm going to look through my books here.
Oh, so you don't like a smart woman. That's
I
all
love
I'm
a smart
hearing.
woman. What I'm saying is,
What?
what I'm saying is,
What are you saying there, buddy?
can you be a librarian?
Can I be a librarian?
Daniel.
Anyways, so yeah, I looked it up and I can't find any truth behind him saying that. He alludes to being a king on a social media post. I didn't read the post. I didn't have time, but he does allude to it.
Yeah.
But he doesn't shout in a courtroom, which is a very strong image, right?
Yes.
And that's getting shared. And I'm going to look at this guy's post, who I don't even know this guy at all. And he's got 3,278 likes, 73 likes on that. So it's circulating, right? And his is probably not the only one, because other people are going to make things on this and share this shit. And this is just one post of one thing. If we hear that, me hearing that, me seeing that, me having that image, because I read those words, the image gets imprinted, because the subconscious isn't taking in the words, it's taking in the image that's produced, right? Or the feeling that those words produce. Like thinking that our president would talk like that is scary, right? To think that a president would be thinking he's king and going around shouting it at the judges, saying like, I don't have to, and see already my mind would just add on to that. Oh, so he's saying he doesn't have to follow the rules. I'm the king. I don't have to do this, and who's going to win in this battle? And if that's true, that's scary.
Yeah.
But I'm going into fight flight without it's not even true.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like spreading that misinformation pushes people into fight flight, which causes them to make stupid decisions or they react rather than respond. So they're getting impulsive. They're acting out of fear rather than out of sound reasoning and a place of love and compassion. They're reacting. And then this is creating more division.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
It goes back to our last week's episode on confirmation bias, because we're going to automatically associate with what we want to believe to be true. So if we are anti-47, then we see something like that and we're like, yeah, there he goes again.
Like proof, this guy, we shouldn't have elected him.
Our confirmation bias is going to go into that. And people on the other side would be like, oh, whatever. Liberal tears, keep crying.
It also discredits. It can discredit you if you share this.
Yeah.
People who do have some way of understanding how to research and stuff, and they go to research it and they are pro 47 and they go research it and they'll be like, you're spreading lies. That's going to make them even more strengthen their belief in what he's doing.
Yeah. And here's the thing though. It's what we talked about in the confirmation bias episode is it takes work. Because you have to research this stuff like you did. You put on your little glasses and you pulled up your
my librarian
little Google machine and started looking into it and trying to find if this was true. Most of the population isn't going to do that.
No, but they say they do.
It or disregard it based off of what their bias is already.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to say, well, I got all the facts. I got this. This is what he said today. And it's like, well, no, I don't remember seeing anything on that. I think that would be headline news if he said something. And then but they're going to believe it, hold it true. We see it all the time we especially notice it when we see the red hats doing it, where it's, I get all my news from Fox News and that's the only reliable source and that's all I'm going to listen to. And so they're doing all this. And it's another thing on this is that it's clickbait. You see that on top and you're waiting for it. How many videos on TikTok or YouTube or anything else have you sat through and watched for 5 minutes waiting for the catch? Because they started off the video with something on, you won't believe what
and they don't
Brad
tell you
Pitt did today. And then they go on this whole story, spilling it out.
It had nothing to do with it.
And
a lot of times.
They might even mention anything about Brad Pitt.
Yeah, exactly. That happens.
And you're just like, I just wasted 5 minutes trying to figure out.
And you usually don't fall for those, but every once in a while, you're like, oh, I wonder. And then it's just ads.
It's clickbait. Yeah. And I've done it on videos before too, where I say something at the beginning. You want me to do it more often?
That's different. That's a hook to get their interest. And you should be talking about your hook. You should back up your hook.
You should be.
Not clickbait. Use a hook, not clickbait.
Good point. But that's what we kind of look for. We want this clickbait. And a lot of times on the clickbait, we're just going off of the headline. So you read this headline on clickbait and you're like, oh, I saw this story today on, this happened, whatever it may be. The president of China just destroyed Australia with nuclear weapons. And you're like, well, what are you talking about? I never saw. Well, I saw the story. And I said, did you even read the story? No, I just read the headline, and that's what it said. And then it was a story about, a game played online between two people and whatnot. And this guy was cosplaying as the president of China, and he destroyed playing a game of Risk or whatever. Mm-hmm. So you're spreading all this stuff out because you didn't research, you didn't look into it, you didn't find it.
So you look like an idiot.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you can either, you as a, if you want people to listen to you, you have to have integrity.
Yeah.
And this is part of integrity. If you are sharing posts that you have not done research and you do not know for sure that this is a fact that you are spreading around, don't share things that you do not know for sure happened.
Yeah.
Because you're just spreading fear and lies. And I'm not saying that we're perfect at this. I'm not saying I'm perfect at this. I'm sure I've shared something that was not true, but I try to pause and slow down and only share things that I think, honestly, I'm trying now more to share things that are uplifting and not things that are like the alarmist thing. It's just kicking people's nervous systems into more and more dysregulation. And um but I just want people to bring it to your attention if you're not noticing it. Maybe remind other people, hey, do some research before you, click that. And don't just Google search it and then the first thing that pops up reinforces what you said and then it's true. No, there's a lot to research. It takes depending on what it is, it can take a few minutes up to hours or days even, like there are things that you just.
And here's a prime example in my life on it. So we just got done recording our Easter extravaganza, and I was doing some research on the ancient pagan rituals of Easter. So, of course, I went to my Google machine, and the first thing I typed in is the pagan roots of Easter. And I started going through all the different articles listed off, and every one of them was like so-and-so church or this ministry or the cross of this. And you could tell they were Christian.
They're going to have a bed.
Articles.
Well, your first ones are going to be sponsored, probably ads. But then you're going to get into, it was like a blog post from a church or something.
So it was all these church ones going through.
Hasn't been, it's just.
So just going through that.
Somebody's opinion.
I wasn't going to pop them open because that wasn't the information. I was looking for something from.
You're just looking for historical. Yeah. Like somebody who's actually studied
archaeology today type thing or something like that.
Someone who.
So I had to refine my search and finally did it and found some more archaeological, scientific, historical type websites that were just listing pagan rituals that have been incorporated later in life into different faiths. And that's what I was looking for.
Which are usually going to be like universities or, historical, I don't know, it's going to have like .edu at the end or, there's other ones. You can find .coms that are actually telling you the history, but it needs to have been peer reviewed. It needs to be able to people to.
Yeah, I was looking for something without any bias on.
They don't have an agenda.
We're going to prove this for the Christian faith, or we're going to prove this against the Christian faith. I was looking for someone saying, this is what the pagans celebrated, and this is what modern society has pulled from that and incorporated into it. So when you think of the Easter Bunny and Easter eggs,
this is where they came from. And it's not trying to prove, it's just saying this is a fact. This is something we've discovered. Yeah. This was first. They were talking about this. It has nothing to do with they don't care whether the story of Jesus is true or not. Yeah. They're just saying, hey, this story existed at this time. Yeah. Right.
So it took a little time and effort, which is what a lot of people don't want to do. Yeah. So a lot of people would have clicked on the first one because that's the best one. Well, because you used to write SEO for websites and all that.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You title it a certain way, put certain keywords in
certain keywords, you're going to be at the top. Like there could be 10, 20, there could be hundreds of pages on that subject. And you have to go down to the bottom where Google, and just because they're not on the front page doesn't mean they're of less value. It just means they have not paid, or they don't have the right SEO or the highest, fastest SEO tags, attached. So their search engine optimization is less than those who are coming up at the top. That's all it is. And a lot of times people are paying for those spots so that you will see them first because they know how people think, that they're lazy and we just want to go. Oh, no, and we also have short attention spans. We don't want to do the investigative stuff.
And before you started doing that with SEO and working for that company, I remember it'd be like, oh, this is the first one, so this one's got to be the best.
Yes, we need to remember that some people there's probably a lot of people that think like that still.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because they just don't know.
They don't understand how it works.
So you'll hear Christians say, I did the research. And I've heard my parents that when they start talking, I'm like, there is no way you have done the research. Like my mom said something about DEI. And then she asked me, she's like, yeah, we listened to both sides and everything. And then she asked me what DEI stood for. And I was like, so I tell her diversity, equity, and inclusion. And she's like, I said, those are all good things, right? And she was like, oh, yeah. How can you make a decision on DEI stuff and vote, hate on it when you don't even know what it means?
Your parents are a prime example of this, where when they pull up a search And if someone said on there, it's like if your parents were going to go to a auto mechanic,
Yeah.
and this one had a Jesus fish or a cross
Oh.
on its title, and this one didn't, which one are they picking?
They're going to go to the Jesus. And I've told them many times. I just said that I reminded them because they were paying for some lotion that was like magical, they claimed. And I
It's
said,
anointed, Candy.
yeah, that's what they're saying. And I said, okay, they're like, they're using the spices and stuff that are described. It's a recipe described in the Bible. And I was like, no doubt there was some like medicines that they use. It's an ancient probably recipe for pain relief or something. And they were like,
They
and
have
I said,
abortion
but do
potions that they
know,
used in
yeah,
the Bible.
exactly. And I was like, you do know that it is a marketing ploy to put Christian on things or say, this is right from the Bible. This is a recipe from the Bible, or to put a Jesus fish on something. And they were like, yeah, that's true. That's true. And I'm like, you have fallen for it. My entire life, you have fallen for that. Like, oh, they're Christian. We should, we know people who only let their kids work at places that advertise as Christian.
Mm-hmm. You can only work at Chick-fil-A or Hobby Lobby or Maranatha bookstores.
Yeah.
Or whatever they're called now. But yeah, so people fall for this stuff all the time. And it's just because they don't want to do the work. Or they think that's a reliable source because it's confirmation to my bias.
And they're quite honestly, and this is why I might create something on this to help people know how to just quickly do some research. I think people are just absolutely, they have a poor education.
Yeah.
In this area. A lot of people who were raised in Christian schools, like myself, not at first I wasn't, but my high school years and junior high years were Christian school, and the education was not good.
Well, you're being taught how to be a good wife.
Pretty much.
So.
And so a lot of my understanding has been a lot of self-teaching. I mean, I've got some schooling, but I've just continued to learn because I've
learned how to learn.
Yes. And that's something I think a lot of people don't know how to do, which is sad.
Yeah.
And they're proud of being uneducated in that way. And that's it is not good. You are so easy to trick when you are not educated.
Yeah, they're proud. Yeah, because uneducated means I haven't been indoctrinated.
That's what they think. They call it indoctrination and realizing you are indoctrinated.
Hot. Meet the kettle.
Yeah.
Because you've been indoctrinated since you've been born.
Yeah.
If you were born into a religious family.
Yeah.
And that's just a simple truth of it. And part of your indoctrination is to be against education, because education is going to steer you away from some of that indoctrination.
There's a documentary that I watched one time. This was had we started to deconstruct, because I remember watching it. It's called Indoctrination, I think. And if I remember it correctly, it's a family talking about how especially the father, talking about how his public schools are indoctrinating and he won't allow it for his kids. And I think he homeschooled.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I feel like he's indoctrinating his kids more than the public. But that's what I thought at the time. I remember thinking like, I feel like you're indoctrinating them.
Yeah.
Because you're telling them this is the only way.
Yeah.
And in a public school, it's saying that's an option, but there's this and there's this and there's this, and you've got to figure out the way for you.
Yeah.
You've got to figure out what you believe is the way.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't agree, but how can you know if you don't know the other ways that there are?
Yeah.
So, but anyways, it is. Indoctrination to them is any type of education other than what they already know. So how could even the divine reach them if they're not willing to listen to anything? If they have it wrong, they're not willing to hear anything different than what they already know. Yeah. And that's indoctrination.
Yeah. And that's sad.
Yeah.
And I think another thing to take away from this before we wrap up is it's all right to be uncomfortable when it comes to information. I know when I see a video, and I know my algorithm more so now than it has for in the last year, the last 3 months, I've been getting a lot more stuff that opposes my views and worldviews on things come across. And it's irritating to see it. And sometimes it's challenging because, damn it, sometimes it makes sense. And it's not what I agree with. And it doesn't make me feel comfortable, but that's all right because I can recognize that and deal with that uncomfortableness and figure out, is there some truth behind it? Is there some logic and reasoning behind what I decided was, and have a bias of being unlogical and unreasonable? So it is great, and it is irritating when someone that you think is supposed to be illogical and not have any reason presents a reasonable argument against your sensibilities.
And that can happen no matter which side of the political spectrum you're on, no matter whether you're Christian or non-Christian. You know, you want your point of view to be challenged, because then you can decide whether it's strong enough to hold up to it or if it does need to change and shift. That's how you find truth. You do not find truth by just saying, I have it and I will refuse to look at anything else. You find truth by holding it up to other things and seeing if it still holds true. If it's true, it will. Period. So
do the work is all we can say, because it's not, you can be easy and take the easy route.
You can be lazy.
And that's lazy. So
you can do that, but just please stop sharing stuff if you don't do the research. Just don't share it. Just scroll on.
You're going to
watch it, have your opinion, and scroll on.
You're going to be falling for a lot of misinformation. But if you want truth and you want knowledge and you want to grow and understand, you're going to have to do some work. That's just the simple fact of things. It's not, life isn't easy. So
it's not meant to be, I don't think, terribly hard, even though there's a lot of hard things in it, but it's meant to be challenging. There should be some challenge, because challenge strengthens you.
It wasn't hard to figure out what information I wanted on Easter.
No.
I just got to do a little extra work.
It just was, there was work involved, right? But it wasn't necessarily hard work. It was work.
I had to rephrase and rethink a way of how to rephrase out my search. And then I got it when I needed it. So.
Exactly. So it took a little bit of effort, which we are just living in this fast pace. And that's why, earlier when you said, I like you to do hooks, because hooks, it's just a marketing thing that you have to do because the attention span is so short right now. You have to snag people's attention in the first second. If you don't snag their attention, they're going to scroll on and they're going to miss something that, if you feel you have something important to say, snag their attention. Do talk about what you hooked with. Don't be, the clickbait is when you don't really talk about what you just did. You used something else to get them to click on it, and it's not even that. But if you're using a hook, you're grabbing their attention so that they'll stay a little longer. And it's sad that we have to do so much work in that area, but that's just where we're at. And hopefully people can kind of allow their attention to be snagged and pause and then dig deeper into something, because you learn a lot that way.
So that's what we have for you right now. So do the work, put in the effort. It's worth it. DannyCan.com, go to that. Check out everything that we have, all our links, all our stores, everything else. Candy's hypnotherapy sessions, Candy's blog, Candy's Substack that she's doing now. Check all that out on there. It's wonderful materials. Go up top. This will help us out greatly. And give us a rating. Give us 5 stars. That helps us out. Leave us a comment and follow if you don't follow. It makes us feel good and warm and fuzzy on the inside. And even more importantly, too, is just love us. We need love. No. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like, hit that subscribe. We would really appreciate that. And with that being said, all we got to tell you is listen to us.
Because we're going to share our opinions whether you do or not.
Bye.
Bye.